Welcome to Running Up the Score. I am Alex Kennedy. This is my new show that airs twice a week, every Tuesday and Friday. We talk all things sports, NBA, NFL, fantasy sports, and today we are talking NBA 2K. My man Ronnie2K is here, the face of NBA 2K. Ronnie, how you doing?
What's up, Alex? How are you?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you joining me. There's a lot of excitement right now about NBA 2K24, so I have to ask you, what are some new features or things that you're excited about in the new game?
I mean, there's a lot. It's really packed in there. I guess it starts with crossplay, being able to play Xbox, PlayStation against each other. It's just taking competition to a whole nother level. I think we're just scratching the surface on what that means to like comp players, and it's really fun to see. Then, the Mamba moments, obviously like celebrating the legacy of Kobe and, everything that he meant to gaming, and celebrate, some of the best ones. Pro play with all the new gameplay features, and how it's so realistic. We're really taking real life gameplay footage and translating it for the game, which is super dope. And then finally, the city's taken another like huge step up the visuals with the rise in the elite, like two affiliations. Like the game has something for everyone, and like that's what's really made it successful. Like you can go in there and play single player, you can run a team with my NBA, and or you can go try to live the life of a basketball player with career in the city. So we really try to entertain our fans in any way that we can.
You've now worked at 2K Games for 15 years. I love those videos that show how much the graphics have changed from like the first games to now. It's pretty crazy. But since you've been behind the scenes over that, time, how much has the game improved since you joined the company to now?
I mean, it's a night and day different game, right? Even the way that it's built, right? Like we used to build it for quick game and, the Rockets versus Lakers. Now it's really built for my career and letting you live out the whole life of a basketball player. Graphically, obviously, like the fidelity, the aesthetics. Now, we go around scanning the entire league and going in individual players and making sure that their likeness is right, consistently getting tattoo updates and all of that. And that's really with the aim of being the best sports simulation. And with if you were going to be a simulation, you got to be authentic to what they look like. So it really is just so realistic. We put out that pro play trailer this year, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, what's gameplay? What's real life? Like, it really has gotten that blurry. I mean, look, for years, the game has looked different than gameplay, right? And but now it's definitely getting difficult. I only assume it's going to get even more crazy in the years to come.
15 years ago, if you had told yourself or someone had told you you'd be in this position where you're the face of NBA 2K, you're being invited to NBA players' weddings, you have millions of followers, I mean, what would you have said? When you joined 2K Games, did any of this seem possible? Or, how did this all come about, I guess? And what would you have said back then?
Definitely not. I mean, it wasn't ever really the plan either. I just was this super fan of the game, and I wanted to give the voice of the fan to the fans. So, being able to jump on forums originally, and then Twitter and the various social media, it was really just like to show my love for the game and be a personality and have fun with fans, talking about real life basketball and everything that went with it. But just as the game grew culturally, as the game invested in their own superstars, it just became apparent that content was king, and we needed someone that was thinking about content and driving that. And, that allows me an avenue of my own, which is to put out content that people appreciate and is very about basketball and being a fan of 2K. And 15 years, I'm almost at 16. I'll be at 16 in March. It's pretty insane that here we are, but it really speaks to how much our game has grown and how important it is to our fans, and what it means to the community and philanthropic and all of that stuff. It's given us a lot of swim lanes to really show our love for basketball and put it out there. And obviously, my love for basketball is shown through that as well. So it's been very exciting.
Victor Wembanyama might be the most hyped up rookie in that 15-year span since you started working there. When there's a rookie that's as highly anticipated as a Wemby that everyone's talking about, how tough is it to find a rating for that player and figure out okay, how is this guy going to compare to not only the stars in today's NBA, but also the legends, which I know adds another little, a challenge. How did you guys figure that out? And I know there's a lot of conversation about Wembanyama's rating, but kind of what went into that process?
Yeah, I mean, he is the most hyped rookie since LeBron. So yes, he is the most hyped rookie since I've been at 2K. Zion notwithstanding. There's a lot of video that we have of Wemby, and getting to watch him compete on the international level and seeing that, but like ultimately, like it's still not on the NBA court. And summer league, we got some very small sample size, 2 games that were actually dramatically different from each other.
Yeah.
But we believe, obviously, with an 84, the highest rated rookie that we've had, and since the rating system changed, like you mentioned, it's now not just against today's players, against all time. So an 84 is a very, very bold stance, and we are firm believers, and his skill set is really transcendent, and he is a video game guy. So like, let's see if it translates to the court, and our belief in him, plays out. We really think that he's going to be really good for a long time.
Over the years, you and I have talked a little bit about, what goes into a player's rating. And for people that may have missed our past interviews, can you kind of break down how you guys determine each player's rating? And I know I think people don't understand all the work that goes into it. Can you kind of share that process?
Yeah, it's not just a number, right? Like, it's not just a number that's spit out. It's a formula. Mike Stauffer and his team do a tremendous job, like putting together the formulas and ultimately the result. Now, some of the things the NBA player can obviously control, which are the on the court shooting percentages, and if you extend your game past 3 points, and so on and so forth. Some of the stuff is a little bit more IQ based, and the intangibles that a player deals with. And so basically it's 30 some odd attributes that get thrown into a formula and spit out this number. And this number is just so contentious. It's meant so much to so many players as they come in and perform in the league, and it gets talked about in the locker room, and it's a number that means a lot to so many people. But it is more than just, let's just throw darts at a wall and see what sticks for a guy. It's very well thought out. And I will say that, like, if you look at them not by the ratings themselves, but like by the order, it's really spot on. Like, there's very little to kind of discuss. Like that. This year, for example, Jokic is a 98. He's 2 steps above this huge layer of guys that are at 96, and then another layer of guys that are at 95. We've never had this many mid-90s guys. I mean, I just think that speaks to like the level of competition in the league, that there's just so many superstars. There's the older guys, like KD's in year 17, which is crazy. LeBron's 21. Steph is now 13, I believe. Or is it 15? He's up there. And then you have these, young guys that are year 4, year 5, year 6 that are also like transcendent, right? And so like you've got this collection of players. So the NBA has never been in a better spot in terms of its stars, and that's why the ratings just like kind of play out really well. Like, and it's so much conversation. Yeah.
You mentioned that, players talk about this in the locker room. A couple of years ago, I did a story about this where I talked to a bunch of different NBA players, and, they said that they get texts from their buddies back home like, hey, how are you lower than so-and-so? Or they talk about, how they look, like, oh, I should be bulked up more. I always love hearing your stories about how players react to their rating. And I mentioned earlier, going to NBA players' weddings. You've told me the story about going to Wes Matthews' wedding, and you end up, on the mic.
Harrison Barnes' wedding.
Harrison Barnes. I'm sorry, talking about Wes Matthews' rating. Can you reshare that story first of all? That's an amazing one. For people that may have missed that, I want you to share that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a few years ago. Obviously, HB came to my wedding, so that's how long.
Oh wow!
Right, so like, it was at Harrison Barnes' wedding, and the conversation, like, I was just there as a guest with the who's who of the NBA, and Wes Matthews comes up to me and he's like, "We got to talk about that rating," and like, I don't really know if this is the place to do it. And then Rick Carlisle, who was the coach of the Nats at the time, like was like, "What is this ratings thing?" And then like he got explained, and then he, during his speech, he brought me up and was like, "This guy wants to talk about all your player ratings," and it was like got super contentious. I'm feeling so bad for my buddy who's getting married and his wife, obviously, who's wonderful, Brittany. So there's been a lot of crazy stories about it. There were less this year, which was kind of funny. Obviously, last year was crazy with between KD and Clay, and Asia in the middle of the night. That was pretty nuts. But again, to your point, Alex, like it is another place where these guys can compete, right? Like not only are they competing on the floor, they are competing in the locker room for clout and who is the best player at their position. So ultimately, like they all want to be the best. They got here because they're hyper competitive, and then being compared to their peers, the best way to do that is a video game rating. So I get it from that standpoint, but the funny thing is it's not as important as an all NBA team, but like for some reason these guys like treat them on the same level. An all NBA team can get you a supermax and get you paid $100 million extra. 2K's rating can't really do that, but
yeah, they need those bragging rights.
But they care just as much, which is pretty awesome.
Now, I'm curious, do you feel younger players care more because they grew up playing the game? I guess now the game's been around so long that even the veterans...
The older players have been playing it their entire lives too.
I guess pretty much everyone has now. But do you see younger players caring more than older players? Just because I guess when you're younger too, you care more about endorsements and some of these things. I guess who's the group that you see cares most about their rating or their appearance in the game?
I mean, I think it's everyone now because the older guys that didn't play our game when they were kids have obviously aged out of the league, but all the older guys in the league now, like all the vets, definitely played our game and have for years, right? Like LeBron, KD, they all play and still play actually. So, I do think that they care, but I think after a few years, you get an understanding that like we don't have very many 99s. So what are you competing for? So I think there's a little bit. I think for a rookie or first couple years, you're definitely concerned about it because it's where do you stand initially? How high do you go? I mean, it's crazy now to look at it, but like Luka Doncic was a 59 in our game at one point. I know it wasn't NBA 2K, it was the college hoops, but he was a 59 at one point. Giannis was a 67 in his first year in the game. And those are two of the favorites for MVP. This year. So it really speaks to the opportunity that these players have to take their career and skyrocket that 2K rating at the same time.
Speaking of how things have changed, over the last 15 years, now we see a ton of streamers play NBA 2K, even NBA players. You got Devin Booker, Tyrese Halliburton, Paul George. These guys are streaming 2K. How has that helped 2K's popularity and sales? Not only having streamers in this huge community online, but also players streaming for their fans.
Well, I think that the story about me kind of relates actually. Like, people trust people, and that's what a streamer is really doing. They have built up an equity and a clout with their own fan base, and them playing the game is them vouching for our game. And I'm so appreciative to the people that come to our community days when we do like events for our streamers, and then continue to stream. We have a bunch of guys that are streaming 12 to 18 hours a day right now on the race to the top 10, this feature we have in the game where it's the rep race again, and these people are documenting it with streaming and talking about. But then the NBA players, like, obviously to take their very limited time and go play this game and give fans another perspective on them, it is amazing. But I also think like it's a two-way street. I think it really helps them as well. It gives them another marketing lane, like it gives them a point of accessibility. Like a lot of these guys have gone into podcasting, and a few of them are really, really good. But like the gaming like kind of lowers the barrier of entry, right? Like anybody can like jump on a game, understand it, and like talk about it and watch somebody play it. So like there's that. And then another layer of that is this whole like esports revolution, right?
Yeah.
And we have this $1 million tournament going on right now with OneUp, one of our partners, and these NBA players are kind of the figureheads of it. So Paul George is the one this week, and he's got a tournament that's coming up this weekend, starting tomorrow, and the winner of that gets $25,000. But like ultimately, the winner of this tournament gets $1 million. And so, I mean, just another lane for like the players to have their own invitationals and invite their fans to it. Really super awesome that they get to have that as a marketing vehicle. But for us, it helps with engagement and gives our players another form of entertainment and another thing that they can be doing. And, that's just super awesome. So any way that we can give more opportunities for our fans to engage with our product, but also be entertained, that's all what we're all about. And we really appreciate the streamers and NBA players participating in that.
You mentioned esports. The NBA recently announced that the 2K League saw significant growth in viewership, engagement, had a really successful year. What are your thoughts on the 2K League and its growth?
I mean, it's done remarkably. 5 years complete, and the road that it took to get there, and now for it to 23 teams and now teams that are outside of the NBA that are participating as well. Super cool. The players that engage in it like work really hard, work tirelessly to make it successful. So it's been super fun to watch, and I can't wait for season 6.
Going back to some of the rating conversation, who were some of the toughest players to rate? We mentioned incoming players, young players, especially when you're trying to compare them to legends who have already retired. But are there certain positions, certain types of players? Like who are the hardest to rate?
I would say obviously the hardest ones are what you mentioned. It's the ones where we don't have a lot of data. We need sample size. Especially the international ones where film is at a little bit more limited in time zones and the media isn't covering them as much. But I would say like obviously big men are tougher than guards. You get the ball out of their hands a little bit more. What else can they do? Like I'll never forget, like we did that underrated thing, and where players could come on and like prove to me that their badges should be better. And so like Karl Anthony Towns, good buddy of mine, like he came out and he's like, my outlet passing and ability to start a break is so good, and you guys have me as like no badge here. So I'm like, okay, let's set up an obstacle course, and we did that, and he proved that his badge should be better, that he is a great outlet passer. And so we increase that and get them the opportunity to do that. So like that's the kind of thing that like speaks to these players being so engaged.
One of the things I think I didn't even realize how passionate the 2K community is until you kind of watch on Twitch and kind of dive into that world. People who just play it casually or just casual NBA fans may not realize that. Just how popular some of these streamers are and how passionate the fan base is. I guess how has that kind of helped the game grow? Just how passionate this and loyal this fan base is, and I guess what's a moment where you kind of realize just how intense that fan base can be?
Well, I mean, I think I really realized it real early when
you're a part of it, I guess. Yeah.
Started going off, but no, I mean, ultimately, like we are so grateful for our fans. They, like we innovate our game. We spoke about that a lot earlier, but like our team at Visual Concepts just does a remarkable job innovating year over year over year. But a lot of that is from the love and labor of our fans, and like thinking about what are they expecting from us? What are they not expecting from us where we can surprise them? Like where can we kind of lead that conversation? Where can they lead us to? Like that is that dichotomy of like fan and product. Like I think we understand better than really any brand. I can confidently say that we innovate our game on an annual basis more than any other video game. And that comes from the feedback that our fans give us and the passion and love for it. And I mean, I see it every day. There's few days I can go outside now without running into a 2K fan that's super loyal and super like appreciative of the brand and what has happened. So it just speaks to the power of basketball, it speaks to the power of gaming. And we're so fortunate to have great fans.
I feel like you're living the dream for a lot of these fans. They would love to work in video games, work in their favorite video game. What would be advice for someone that you have that wants to work in the video game space or have a job that's somewhat similar to yours?
Well, somewhat similar to mine is I definitely like am not something that I'm not. Like I really do act like myself online, and I know that sounds really basic and simple, but there's an authenticity thing, like especially as content creation and like being an influencer has become a coveted position. It's like these guys work hard. They're putting themselves out there. They're trusting their community. They are like really leaning into their own authentic selves and then showcasing that. It sounds easy. It's not. And like you got to work hard. You got to be authentic. And if you're funny, be funny. If you're not funny, don't try to be funny, right? Like be the content that you are. And so that's really the big thing. And the technology changes, trends change, all of that. You have to re-educate. You have to like continue to learn. The learning never really stops. And like new social medias begin like be real. Like learning about be real. So I think I'd have to learn, right? So like, but you have to be on top of it and put yourself. It's a career, right? Like you have to give it your all and learn. And that's the advice that I would have is continue to re-educate and continue to be yourself.
And last question for you. What do you think is the future of 2K, the future of video games in general? There's a lot of new technologies popping up and things like that. What do you think we'll see in this, franchise going forward, and then just in video games in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we are always looking for more ways to touch our fans and to engage them and give them, share some entertainment. There's a lot of entertainment facilities, especially, coming out of the pandemic, like everybody's trying to grab mind share of their audience. And, we want to do the same. So we're trying to offer as much, entertainment value as we can. And so those are only going to continue. We're going to continue to innovate and try to lead the way as we have the last, 20, 25 years. And, I'm excited for it. It's gaming is great because like, it's still kind of a new age, entertainment device. And we're just scratching the surface of what we can do.
Is there anything else that we didn't touch on about 2K24 that you want to throw out there?
No, obviously being able to celebrate Kobe and his legacy. I'm even looking to like advance that. I don't know if Alex, did you see that mural that in LA that they're trying to pull down?
Oh yeah, that's insane.
Vanessa posted about it. So like we signed this petition, we put it out there, but I'd like to actually do more. And, like 2K has a responsibility in the basketball world to do good and give back. And, there's several projects we're working on that I'm really excited about in the real world to, continue to benefit the game of basketball because it's given us so much. And that's one of them, right? Like how can we, give back to this member of the basketball community that meant so much to so many people, and so that's definitely a focus of ours, and will continue to be for the foreseeable future.
For sure, we'll put the link to the petition in the description of this video too, so anyone wants to sign that, definitely make it easy. Last thing, just because you brought up Kobe in the cover, I'm curious. Obviously, with Kobe, it's a little bit different, but what's the typical process of deciding a cover athlete? What kind of conversations go into that, and how do you guys make that decision?
Well, it's a small certain years it's been different, right? Like we've done a variety of things, but for the most part, it's a small collection of people that think about it because it is a small collection of people that are, like candidates really, right? Like, and the cover means so much. It is like the real big endorsement that any NBA player is really looking forward to. I have this interview coming out with Trae Young in a couple weeks where we talk about that, like what a cover means is like an exclamation point in a career for an NBA player. And so,
Yeah.
but I would say like what we kind of try to think about are, do they play the game for sure? Like, can they speak confidently about 2K, not just the NBA? Do they have something that connects with our marketing campaign that year and the story that we're trying to tell with the game and, with our general marketing? And then are they generally on some sort of trajectory upwards? Like, well, if you look at the covers, like we don't have a cover curse, right? Like our guys are consistently in the conversation for MVP and final champions and all of that stuff. So that's what we're looking for is playing at the highest level, but trending upwards. And, but definitely it starts with being a fan first.
Awesome. Well, Ronnie, thanks so much for your time, man. It's always fun picking your brain. Thanks so much.
Yeah, appreciate you, Alex. Anytime.
Everyone, make sure you guys pick up NBA 2K24 if you haven't already. Make sure you guys follow Ronnie across all of his socials and stay tuned for my interview with Shawn Marion. In a moment, we will be joined by four-time NBA All-Star and NBA champion Shawn Marion. But first, I want to thank our presenting sponsor, Prize Picks. If you haven't played daily fantasy sports on Prize Picks, you are missing out. Here's how it works. You pick 2 to 6 players and pick whether they'll score more or less points than their Prize Pick projection. If you're right, you win big. You can win 25 times your money on any entry. Prize Picks offers projections on every sport: NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, college football, college basketball, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, tennis, MMA, boxing, disc golf, overseas basketball, cricket, and more. You can mix and match players from different sports, so you could have LeBron James and Patrick Mahomes in the same entry. If you download Prize Picks today and use the promo code RUNNING, RUNNING, they'll match 100% of your deposit up to $100. That's the promo code RUNNING, RUNNING, for a 100% deposit match up to $100. It takes less than 60 seconds to build a lineup. And right now, I'm going to show you just how easy it is to build a lineup. Let's go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to go ahead and pick Calvin Ridley, more than 53.5 receiving yards. And then let's go Nico Collins, more than 59.5 receiving yards. Let's do a $20 entry, place entry. Just like that, I am entered and I am good to go.